My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. Waiting for a long time. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple. Can't get any simpler than that.
President Donald Trump unleashed a wave of tariffs, his so-called Liberation Day, all part of his bold mission to make America wealthy again. But what came next felt more like an economic nuke. On April 2, 2025, Donald Trump dropped a bombshell, declaring a nationwide emergency and slapping a blanket 10% tariff on almost everything coming into the US. No warning, no build-up, just shock and awe. But that was just the opening move. Countries running trade surpluses, they got wrecked. China got hit first, and hard. Tariffs skyrocketed, 34%, then 50%, then an insane 125%. The EU caught a 20% punch to the gut. Even old pals like South Korea and Canada weren't safe. They were caught in the blast zone too. Trump's message was loud and clear. If you sell more to us than we sell to you, you are going to pay. And bleed they did.
A top U.S. economic official says the Trump administration will raise tariffs again if countries don't reach trade agreements during the 90-day pause period. Now further raising tariff pressure. Peunji has the details.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who acts as a principal advisor to Trump, has said tariff rates will soon return to a reciprocal level.
The aftermath of President Trump's Liberation Day tariffs was immediate and seismic. Within just 2 trading days, the U.S. stock market hemorrhaged over $6.6 trillion, marking the largest 2-day loss in history. Crude oil prices nosedived, and retailers and importers scrambled to secure bonded warehouses, facilities allowing goods to be stored without immediate tariff payments. The sudden surge in demand caused rental prices for these warehouses to quadruple almost overnight. Entire shipping routes were disrupted, with vessels rerouted or delayed, leading one logistics executive to liken the situation to a trade hurricane hitting global supply chains. But the economic shockwave was just the beginning. A legal earthquake followed as 12 states, including New York, California, and Illinois, filed a lawsuit in federal court against President Trump. They argue that the president is misusing emergency powers under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, to unilaterally conduct trade policy without congressional approval. The plaintiffs contend that a trade deficit, regardless of its size, does not constitute the unusual and extraordinary threat required to invoke such emergency powers. They accuse Trump of fabricating a crisis to justify imposing what are essentially taxes on Americans, asserting that only Congress has the constitutional authority to levy taxes, including tariffs. One official close to the case described the president's actions as a one-man tariff war against the planet. This legal challenge underscores the broader debate over the limits of executive power and the appropriate checks and balances in U.S. trade policy. As the case progresses, it could set significant precedents regarding the separation of powers and the scope of presidential authority in economic matters.
On an earnings call, because of SEC requirements, they have to give the most draconian case. So Walmart will be absorbing some of the tariff.
The global economic landscape has been dramatically reshaped by President Trump's aggressive tariff policies, leading to immediate and far-reaching consequences. In response to the U.S. tariffs, China imposed a 125% tariff on all American goods, severely affecting U.S. exports such as soybeans, corn, automobiles, semiconductors, and beef. This has left American farmers, particularly in Iowa and North Dakota, with unsellable crops and has disrupted the supply chain for various industries.
Starbucks is set to cut back 30% of its menu offerings by the end of 2025, aiming to streamline its menu and addressing declining sales. The move comes as a part of CEO Brian Nicole's Back to Starbucks plan to revamp the brand. The coffee giant also introduced ceramic mugs, free refills, and a return of the condiment bar. Starbucks is also pushing for a quicker service with a 4-minute drink delivery goal, which includes new machines, digital menus, and enhanced mobile ordering. Starbucks has been struggling with a 4% drop in sales both in the U.S. and globally, marking its 4th consecutive quarter of decline.
Don't miss what's coming next. It gets even crazier. Make sure you're subscribed so you stay ahead of the headlines. Major retailers like Walmart and Target are grappling with the increased costs due to tariffs. Walmart has announced price hikes and is reportedly cutting approximately 1,500 jobs to manage rising costs. Target has lowered its revenue forecast, citing consumer pullback driven by inflation fears and tariff uncertainties. In a shake-up memo that landed in employee inboxes, Walmart's top brass, Suresh Kumar, Global CTO and Chief Development Officer, and John Furner, CEO of Walmart US, revealed a sweeping internal restructure. The goal? Strip out red tape, flatten the hierarchy, and supercharge innovation.
On an earnings call, because of SEC requirements, they have to give the most draconian case. So Walmart will be absorbing some of the tariff.
We are eliminating roles, as well as opening some new roles aligned with our business priorities and growth strategy, the note declared. Walmart, a global titan employing over 2 million people, is trimming fat while sharpening its competitive edge. Despite the looming job cuts, the retail giant's stock has shown remarkable resilience. Walmart shares dipped just 0.1% in Thursday's pre-market, barely a scratch considering the nearly 48% surge over the past year. But behind that growth, storm clouds may be gathering. This isn't just a restructure, it's a warning shot that Walmart is preparing for a radically faster, leaner future. South Korea has declared a state of economic alert, pledging emergency aid to industries affected by the tariffs and seeking a special exemption deal before the 90-day window closes on July 8th. In Europe, leaders are exploring alternative trade agreements to mitigate the impact of US tariffs. The European Union is working towards finalizing an interim free trade agreement with India by July, aiming to bolster economic ties amidst the unpredictable international trade conditions. India is negotiating an interim trade pact that would cut tariffs on imports like cars down to 10%, wine, meat, and poultry, mirroring its UK deal, while securing easier market access for Indian garments, pharmaceuticals, steel, and oil. Beyond tariffs, the agreement may tackle intellectual property rights, government procurement, and non-tariff barriers. Having done a similar interim deal with Australia before finalizing its UK FTA, India is once again making a high-stakes, time-sensitive play on the global trade stage. The aggressive tariff policies have led to a shift in global trade dynamics, with countries seeking to reduce dependence on the US market. The European Union is expanding its trade network, and nations like Brazil and India are leading the recovery from the market sell-off triggered by the tariffs. As the world navigates this new economic terrain, the long-term implications of these policies remain to be seen, with global markets adjusting to the evolving trade relationships. In the fast-paced world of global trade, Mexico's automotive sector finds itself at a crossroads. Under the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, vehicles assembled in Mexico can qualify for a 15% tariff, significantly lower than the 25% imposed on other imports, if they meet stringent US content requirements. This provision has been a lifeline, allowing Mexico to maintain its competitive edge in the North American market. However, this advantage comes with a catch. Automakers must certify their US content levels every 6 months. Failure to do so can result in retroactive fines, potentially subjecting vehicles to the full 25% tariff. This places immense pressure on manufacturers to maintain meticulous records and ensure compliance with ever-evolving regulations. The Mexican government is actively pursuing a zero-tariff deal to further safeguard its auto industry. Economy Minister Marcelo Ebrard has expressed both relief and caution, acknowledging the temporary reprieve while emphasizing the need for long-term stability. "We're relieved, but not reassured," he remarked, highlighting the precarious nature of the current situation. As the US prepares for a comprehensive review of the USMCA, Mexico faces a critical juncture. The outcome of these negotiations will determine the future of its automotive exports and, by extension, the economic health of the nation. With the stakes higher than ever, all eyes are on the upcoming talks, where every decision could steer the industry toward prosperity or peril. While inside Capitol Hill, a secretive bipartisan alliance of senators is scrambling to craft legislation aimed at reining in the president's unchecked power over trade. But the clock may have already run out. Trump's aggressive use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act has shattered old norms, setting a dangerous new precedent. If the courts give their stamp of approval, future presidents could unleash massive tariffs on almost any product from any country, all without a single vote from Congress. Imagine America's trade policy swinging like a pendulum every 4 years, driven purely by political agendas and impulsive decisions. For manufacturers, retailers, and everyday consumers, this spells one thing: relentless chaos and crushing uncertainty. The stakes have never been higher, and the fallout could shake the very foundation of global commerce. The legal battle is escalating rapidly. Lawsuits are pouring in from all corners. Native American tribes are taking Trump to court, arguing that his tariffs are devastating tribal businesses that rely on cross-border trade. Small business coalitions are crying foul, claiming these tariffs trample on their due process rights. Retail associations are sounding the alarm, calling the economic damage catastrophic and irreversible. The courts are now flooded with a tidal wave of anti-tariff cases, and experts warn this could erupt into the defining constitutional crisis of Trump's presidency. Not about elections or immigration, but a fierce showdown over economic power itself. Yet Trump stands unshaken and defiant. "They can sue all they want," he declared on Truth Social. "We are bringing jobs home, we are protecting our workers, and we are crushing globalists." But the hard facts paint a far darker picture. The US economy shrank in the first quarter of 2025, the first decline in 3 years, with gloomy forecasts pointing to another slump in the second quarter. If that holds, America will officially be in recession. Inflation is creeping back up, and the bond market, a notorious early warning system, is flashing red signals. The economic storm is gathering, and the fallout could be devastating. The bond market, known for signaling economic downturns, is now flashing serious red flags. But the real eye-opener: a brand new CNN national poll reveals that 60% of Americans disapprove of how Trump is handling the tariff situation, while only 32% give him their approval. Among independents, disapproval skyrockets to 71%, and in key swing states, the backlash is even more intense. Farmers in Iowa, small business owners in Ohio, and retirees in Arizona are all feeling the pinch, grappling with rising costs and shrinking incomes. One former Trump supporter told NPR, "I voted for strength. What I got were prices I simply can't afford." The uncertainty shows no signs of easing. Trump hasn't ruled out hiking tariffs again this July if trade talks collapse. His Treasury Secretary issued a stark warning on Sunday. Any country that drags its feet will face immediate tariff reinstatement. No warnings. Behind the scenes, the administration is preparing official letters to be sent to nations that refuse to comply, detailing the exact tariff rates they'll face, some soaring as high as 50%. The ultimatum is crystal clear: accept Trump's terms or suffer total economic devastation. This has evolved far beyond a simple trade policy. It's a full-blown global pressure campaign. Nations are being forced to accept harsh new demands or face severe consequences. Businesses are warned to keep prices in check or risk retaliation. Meanwhile, the courts are now being called on to decide if the US president can unilaterally dictate global trade by decree. What started as a pledge to fix trade has spiraled into a high-stakes battle over constitutional authority, global alliances, and America's own strength. The next 60 days will be the ultimate test. Will Trump's Liberation Day tariffs transform global trade, or bring it to the brink of collapse? The entire world is on edge, watching closely. This story is far from over, so if you want to stay ahead of the chaos, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications.